Hello and welcome back to another lesson of Getting Started series on Expivi. In the previous lessons, we have learned how to set up a product, import it, set it up inside the showcase for the right visualization of the product, and preview the product and try out the different variations that we had. In this lesson, we are going to learn how you can set up material groups and select from different materials on parts of the product. So you can actually have the option to really make the materials look the way that you want them to be, and also provide a way for the customers to choose from different colors and other textures that are available on the product itself. For that, there are two ways we can do it. We can incorporate the material groups directly on the 3D model that we had created previously and automate the entire way. So in the previous lesson, we created this 3D model when we had set up the naming conventions and the right structure to automatically import the 3D model and automatically set up all of the different attributes that we had. And using the same way, we are also able to set up a material group on the parts that on which we want to have a way to select different materials on it. We can also do the same thing inside the model tree. So if you follow one way or another, it's both possible. So for example, right now type 1 is selected. If I select the outer shell, I would be able to set a material group on this part where I can assign multiple materials on it and select one of them as an attribute on the product. Or I can do the same thing inside my 3D model so that the entire process is actually automated. First, I'm going to show you how we can do that inside the model tree, and then we will go back into the 3D model and re-import the 3D model so you can actually see also how you can automate the process from your 3D modeling software. So going back to configure and model tree, I have the two different options on my product, and on my type 1, on the outer shell, I would like to have a material group where I can assign multiple materials to it and select one of the materials at a time. In order to do that, I select the outer shell. It automatically selects the item inside my model tree. And inside here, under my option, I can add a material group. So I do that by selecting the dots with the left button, left mouse button, go to the append and append a material group. I am creating a new material group. I can assign multiple items to the same group. I will show you that in a second. And I'm going to name this color outer shell. Add the node. So it's been added. And then I just select, drag and drop the outer shell inside the color outer shell material group. So what this material group will actually do is that the configurator during the export will create a material group for me, and every item underneath this material group will be assigned the material that is being assigned into the material group, as we will see in a second. So the outer shell we should be able to change the materials of the outer shell. For that reason, I have selected this part and dragged and dropped it under the material group of color outer shell. We also want to do the same thing with the type 2. So we had the type 1 and we have the type 2. And in order to do the same thing with the type 2, we create the same material, because if we change the material on the outer shell, we want the same material to be applied on the type 2 as well. For that reason, we just go append a material group on the type 2. And we select one of the existing ones, and that is the one that we just created underneath there. So again, the same thing. I have the outer shell, I select it, drag it, and drop it inside the color outer shell material group that I just created. So what we see inside here, we have the type 1, we have type 2. Underneath there, we have the outer shell of type 1 and type 2. And for each outer shell, we have created the same material group. That means that only one group will be generated for these two. And when we change the materials of this material group, it will apply on all of the underlying nodes that come under this group. So to export it, we save. Now the model tree is saved, and then we generate the configuration once more. This will override all of the graph, attribute, and components and the material groups that are coming after our generation. Again, inside the graph, we can have an overview of what has been created. So we can see inside here, we have the pod type, option 1 and option 2. And before the asset of the outer shell or the 3D part of the outer shell is generated or assigned, we see also a material group which both point to the same group. So for this material group now, a material group has been generated. So if we go to the material groups, we see the group that has been generated for us. And from here, we can start assigning different materials to this group. Before we do that, we need to go to the material library and create a few materials that we want to actually assign inside here. So I'm going to the materials by selecting the resources, or if the left menu is closed, you can just go over the resources, select the materials, or you can select with the left mouse button on top and then select resources and go to the material library. We earlier during the import had created a folder for it, so I click the folder so I can find back the material really easily, and then I can add other material inside here by clicking the add. I'm going to call this color 1, add it. I'm also creating a second one. I'm going to call it color 2 and also add that one. I'm not going to specify all of the options of each material inside here, since I want to see this material actually inside the scene graph or inside the showcase, so actually when I'm changing them, I can see the effect directly on the product itself. The only thing that will be changing on these two new materials I've created is the type. Since this is a pod, a physical material will look a lot better because it gives us the ability to assign reflection, roughness, and metalness on the material. And that gives us, and also a coating. So imagine when you have a ceramic pot, you definitely want to have a coating on top of it to make it look more visual, more realistic. So for the materials I've created, I just select them. I change the type to physical, and then go on save it. I will do the same thing with the color 2 that I've created. I will change the type to physical to give me the more options of a more realistic material, and save it. Next, I'm going back to my product, going to the material groups. The material group has been automatically generated. Go to the edit and assign the two materials that I had created inside here. So I assign materials. I select the folder I had created them inside. I have material color 1. It is been assigned, and I have color 2. So what now happens is that when I go to the showcase, it will apply the first material that has been inside the material group that has been assigned on the outer shell. Since remember, inside here, we can see that the outer shell mesh comes after the color outer shell material group. So everything that is inside the material group will be assigned on the meshes that have been under that group. I can also select the default one of which one I want to see first. So the color one, or the first one will always be the default unless I select the default one for one of the materials. So now I have selected the color 1. I go to the showcase. I'm going to change the different options on this material. So this material that I see right now on the outer shell is actually the color 1 that is inside the material group, because the outer shell has been assigned a material group. So I can see the name here as well. I'm going to assign an environment map on it. So from the environment map, I have some environment map inside here. I select that one. It gives me an environment map. And then I have also the roughness. So if I make the roughness to 0, it will give me a very shiny object. I can also add the coating. So when I add the coating, you can see at the sides that it adds a little bit of coating around the sides. I want to have a little bit of ceramic feeling to it, so I'm going to make it a little bit less rough. I'm gonna have a coating roughness which will blur out the reflection that you can see on top, and make it then again a little more shiny, but not that much shiny. So I think that's a good presentation of it. A little more shiny. Also, it's roughness and around the edge, and then save the material. So this is now actually the material 1. I go back to the configure. In order to change the other material as well, I'm going back to the material groups on my materials and select the color 2 as the default one selected on the material group. And when I go back to the showcase, the color 2 is assigned, as you can see, to the outer shell, because that one is the default one. So now I can go on and change the color 2 inside here as well and personalize it to the way that I want. So I'm going to make this to be a little bluish, and then also add the environment map on it to have a little bit of reflection around it. So I'm going to have a little bit of different reflection, and then I'm going to make it very shiny, add a lot of coating around. So that's the second one. Also, always remember to save the changes before you select away the material or the object that you had been selected. Otherwise, it will reset the material selection to what it was. So when I go now to the preview, I only see the default selected material on the material group, but I don't have the option yet to select the material from the group itself. In order to do that, I need to create an attribute for it. And the way we do that is by going to the configuration, going to the attributes, add a new node, and from types, we select material group. We can name this for any name that we want, add the node. So color material group attribute is being added, and then we need to assign a group to it. So from the material groups, when we open the edit from the attribute color, I can select a material group that I want to be available as a selection under this attribute. So I select the group, close it, and then save my changes. Now, if I go back to my preview, now I have the option to also select the materials that have been assigned to the material group to select from. I can also choose and change them. So this is basically the way that you can create all of the different material groups, and you can have any number of material groups to any number of parts of your 3D model. Next, I'm also going to show you how you can set this up directly from your 3D model. So inside here, we had our 3D model. Because right now we had the model tree and we have set up the material group and have assigned it inside here. But what if you want to have the material group already inside your 3D model? So when you import it, the material group will be automatically generated for you, and this will be automatically set as a material group inside here as well. Again, we can use a naming convention for that. So the material group itself is called color out shell. These are the two outer shells of my product. So I have the type 1, type 2, and then I have an outer shell of it, and I have an outer shell inside here as well. So if I want to add a material group from here already inside my 3D modeling software, I can simply do that by creating an empty node. Let's set the location of the node to the origin. Going to create an empty node, or a dummy, as it is called in some other 3D software modeling softwares. And what I'm going to do is I'm gonna use a naming convention of material, so MAT, and then underline the name of material group that I have, underline E. So what this represents is that we have material. It defines that we are starting with creating a material group, the name of the group that we want to create, and then underline E is the end of the material group. And we use this convention in order to have an ending, and also it doesn't matter what comes after this, because it can detect just the material underline, and it can detect the underline E as the ending. It doesn't matter what comes before or after this group. It will always generate a material group for it using this naming convention. So I'm going to put this inside my type 2. I'm going to place the outer shell also inside there. So right now we have the same hierarchy that we had created over here inside our 3D modeling software, and we need to do the same thing for another type as well. So I'm going to create another empty node, rename it to mod underline the name of my group, and then underline E. So as you see, because we already had the same name inside here, Blender has automatically added .001 at the end of it, so you wouldn't have duplicated names. But since we are using a naming convention with material underline the name of the group and underline E, the system can still detect this part very easily, regardless of what comes after it or before it. I'm going to put this under type 1 as well, and put the outer shell inside there. So right now it has the exact same model hierarchy as we have over here. I'm going to export this as fix again. I'm going to call it configurable 2. This is our extended version where the material groups are also created. Going back and remove my 3D model, so I can see this has been removed, our graph is removed, but our attributes are actually remained inside here, because if I'm going to re-import my 3D model, if I have had some updates on it, if re-imported, I don't want to lose my showcase or my attributes that I had created previously. But when I go now and import the 3D model from my updated version, so it has come next to it. So that's the second version. I upload it, next, upload it as a configurable, put everything inside the path tree, and also reuse the one because I don't want to regenerate all of the materials that are inside the 3D model, and then import. So our model is imported. I'm going to close it. And what happens now, just as the same that we had previously, since we have created our material groups already inside here, so what the software did is actually auto-generate the groups already when I imported the 3D model. So using this step, by assigning material groups already inside my 3D model, when I import it, it will automatically generate the material group for me as well. So I wouldn't have to do any extra work inside here anymore. So the graph is regenerated from the 3D model that I just imported. I can then again see the same exact structure that I had, only this time everything is automatically generated. So I have my hierarchy with all of the options. I have material groups assigned and created automatically. And since I already had created this material group previously, it has remained inside there, and the options that I had selected inside here are also already inside my product. So going back to the preview, nothing has been changed. It's still the same configuration, only this time everything is generated automatically. And also, remember, everything I import during here is directly available inside the web shop, inside your own web shop. So I can change between the two different variations that I have. I can change between the different types, and then again I can still change the different variations, and none of this would require any type of programming for your product. Everything is generated automatically, and you haven't defined a single variation or a single definition for our configuration. Everything is as simple, as flawless as you have seen right now. This was our introduction to setting up materials and how you can set different attributes and different material groups on your product, so customers are actually able to select between different colors for every type of product. In the next lessons, we are going to have a look into the attributes, the pricing, and how you can present the options that the way you want to the customers on your web shop. Thank you very much, and until next time.